Shock cannons unleashed hell. The UNS Indomitable shuddered under the onslaught of the Talarian battle fleet's barrage. Consoles sparked and smoke choked the bridge as Captain Anthony Powell gripped the armrests of his command chair, knuckles white, the view screen filled with the looming bulk of Warlord Cygnus's flagship, an obsidian wedge bristling with enough firepower to glass a planet. Cygnus's sneering face appeared, yellow eyes glinting with malice. "Foolish apes, I warned you not to trespass in Talarian space. Now witness the consequences of defying me." Another blast rocked the Indomitable, throwing crew from their seats. Powell steadied himself, jaw clenched. Months ago, Cygnus had declared human warships inferior, boasting none could withstand his armada. Earth's Admiralty dispatched the Indomitable to prove him wrong. Failure meant not just the loss of one ship, but a devastating blow to human pride and standing on the galactic stage. As the Talarian fleet pressed their attack, sensors reported alarming readings, exotic energy signatures powering the aliens' weapons, far beyond known human technology. The stakes had risen. This was no longer about a single skirmish, but a battle for humanity's very survival against a foe that saw them as primitive upstarts. Powell met Cygnus's glare on the view screen, resolve hardening. The Indomitable would triumph, or die fighting. Earth depended on it. He leaned forward, issuing clipped commands to his bridge crew. There was no retreat, no surrender. Here, now, they would prove the folly of underestimating human courage and tenacity. "All hands, battle stations, let's show these alien bastards what humans are made of." The Indomitable's guns roared in defiance, lancing out with searing beams of plasma and volleys of armor-piercing shells. Captain Powell's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display, analyzing the Talarian fleet's formation for any weaknesses to exploit. There, a gap in their shields, a momentary fluctuation in their energy grid. "Helm, bring us about to heading 049er, Powell barked. "Tactical. Target that lead dreadnought's port flank with a full spread of phase shift torpedoes on my mark." The bridge crew leapt into action, hands flying over consoles as the mighty warship pivoted on its axis, engines flaring. Powell's finger hovered over the firing control, counting down the seconds. "Fire!" A salvo of shimmering projectiles streaked from the Indomitable's launch tubes, vanishing and reappearing in bursts of ghostly light as they phase-shifted through the fabric of space-time itself. The Talarian shields flared uselessly as the torpedoes passed right through, detonating deep within the dreadnought's hull in blossoms of antimatter flame. The alien ship listed, venting atmosphere and debris. "Direct hits," the tactical officer crowed. "Their power core is going critical." Powell allowed himself a grim smile as the dreadnought exploded in a miniature supernova, the shock waves scattering the Talarian formation. All across the battlefield, the story repeated as the Indomitable's superior technology and human ingenuity took their toll. On the screen, Warlord Cygnus raged, spittle flying as he screamed orders at his beleaguered fleet. But it was no use. One by one, his mighty warships fell, reduced to drifting hulks leaking plasma and bodies. His flagship shuddered under the Indomitable's onslaught, shields buckling. "This isn't over, apes!" Cygnus snarled, hate etched in every line of his face. "You've made an enemy today!" His image winked out as the Talarian flagship jumped to FTL, fleeing the battle. Cheers erupted on the Indomitable's bridge as the crew reveled in their incredible victory. Against impossible odds, they had defeated a superior foe through skill, dedication, and the indomitable human spirit. Earth would be safe, its place among the stars secured. But Captain Powell held up a hand for silence, his expression grim. "We've won the battle," he said solemnly, "but not the war. The Talarians won't forgive this humiliation easily. They'll be back, mark my words." He turned to his communications officer. "Get me a priority 1 channel to Admiralty, inform them of our victory, and request further instructions. I have a feeling our mission is just beginning." As the Indomitable set course for the heart of the Talarian Empire, its crew steeled themselves for the challenges ahead. They had proven their worth as warriors. Now they would need to be diplomats and champions, carrying the banner of humanity on the galactic stage. The task would be demanding and perilous, but they would not shy from it. For Earth, for the future, they would prevail. The Indomitable drifted in the void, her hull marred by scorch marks and breaches. Inside, Captain Powell and his crew raced to repair the sabotage, sweat pouring down their faces as they fought to bring critical systems back online. In the palace, Princess Zara burst into the throne room, dragging a battered and restrained Prince Kalar behind her. "Father, the humans are innocent," Zara declared, throwing Kalar to the floor at Emperor Valkorian's feet. "We have proof that Kalar and his followers planted the explosives on the Indomitable. They seek to undermine the negotiations and drive our people to war." Valkorian's eyes flashed with rage as he stepped down from his throne, looming over his treacherous son. "You dare betray your own people? Betray me? I should have you executed for this treason." Kalar spat at his father's feet, eyes burning with hatred. "You're the traitor, cozying up to these filthy apes, letting them make a mockery of our traditions. I'm trying to save our people from your weakness." Just as Valkorian opened his mouth to pronounce judgment, alarms blared throughout the palace. On the consoles, a fleet of Talarian warships dropped out of FTL, weapons hot and bearing down on the crippled Indomitable. "They're not responding to hails," a Talarian officer shouted over the chaos. "They're charging weapons." Emperor Valkorian whirled on Kalar, eyes cold. "Call off your dogs or I'll have you thrown out the airlock myself." Kalar just laughed, a manic sound. "It's too late, old man. The die is cast. Today we purge the human filth from our space and restore the natural order." On the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Powell clutched the armrests of his command chair as the ship shuddered under the onslaught. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Bulkheads groaned under the strain. The rogue Talarian ships pressed their attack, pummeling the human vessel with relentless plasma fire. "Shields down to 20%, the tactical officer shouted over the din of battle. "Hull breaches on decks 4, 7, and 12. We can't take much more of this, Captain." Powell's teeth gritted as he studied the tactical display, his mind racing. They were outgunned and outflanked, their ship crippled by sabotage. But he would be damned if he let his crew go down without a fight. "Divert all power to engines and forward shields," he barked. "Helm, plot a course straight for the lead cruiser. We're going to ram the bastards." The bridge crew shared determined looks, perseverance hardening in their eyes. They knew the odds, knew the price they might pay, but they were human and they would not go quietly into the night. As the Indomitable surged forward on a collision course, her prow glowing cherry red with the heat of re-entry, Captain Powell stood tall, his voice ringing out over the comm. "All hands, this is the captain. We might go down today, but we'll go down fighting, and we'll take as many of these traitorous bastards with us as we can. It's been an honor serving with you all." The crew responded with a roar of defiance, a sound that echoed through the ship's halls and out into the void beyond. The Indomitable, battered but unbroken, lanced toward her foe, a spear of human steel and fury aimed at the heart of betrayal. And on the palace view screens, Princess Zara watched with a mixture of horror and awe, knowing that the fate of both their peoples hung in the balance. The Indomitable's hull groaned under the onslaught of plasma fire, but Captain Powell's eyes narrowed with fierce dedication. "Return fire," he barked. "All batteries, target those lead cruisers." The human warship's advanced weaponry roared to life, lancing out with pinpoint accuracy. Beams of coherent energy sliced through Talarian shields, leaving molten scars across enemy hulls. Powell watched the tactical display, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth as the first rogue ship erupted in a silent explosion. On the palace view screens, Emperor Valkorian's face contorted with fury. "Guards, seize the traitor!" he thundered, pointing at Prince Kalar. But the treacherous prince was already moving, ducking under the swing of a guard's stun baton and sprinting for the exit. "After him!" Valkorian roared, but Kalar vanished into the chaos of the panicked palace corridors. Princess Zara's voice cut through the din. "Father, my loyalists are mobilizing. We can still turn this around." In the void of space, the battle raged. The Indomitable danced between enemy barrages, her superior maneuverability allowing her to evade the worst of the attacks. Captain Powell's voice rang out over the comm. "Activate cloaking systems. Helm, bring us about to Vector 317. The massive warship shimmered and faded from view, reappearing moments later behind the enemy formation. "Fire at will," Powell ordered, and the Indomitable's guns blazed, catching the rogue ships in a devastating crossfire. Aboard his commandeered flagship, Prince Kalar snarled orders at his crew. "Destroy that human abomination. I want it reduced to atoms." But the tide was turning. A swarm of sleek fighters emerged from the Indomitable's launch bays, led by Commander Hawkins. "All right, you mad bastards," Hawkins's voice crackled over the squadron frequency. "Let's show these traitors what Earth's finest can do." The fighters dove and wove through the maelstrom of battle, plasma charges primed. Hawkins barrel-rolled his craft, evading a hail of enemy fire as he closed in on Kalar's flagship. "Now!" he shouted, and his squadron released their payloads in perfect synchronization. Explosions rippled across the Talarian vessel's hull, and Kalar stumbled as his bridge rocked violently. Alarms blared as systems failed across the ship. "No!" he raged, pounding his fist on a sparking console. "This can't be happening!" With their leader's ship crippled and their forces in disarray, the remaining rogue vessels attempted to flee. But Princess Zara's reinforcements had arrived, boxing them in with a wall of gleaming Talarian warships. Kalar's eyes darted wildly across his tactical display, desperation etched on his features. "All ships," he hissed, "set collision courses for the Indomitable. If we die, we take the humans with us." But Captain Powell was ready. "Activate the tractor beam," he commanded. The experimental technology sprang to life, invisible tendrils of energy latching onto the incoming Talarian ships. With a gesture from Powell, the beam operators reversed the polarity, hurling the rogue vessels back into their own lines. The resulting carnage was spectacular and terrible to behold. Ship after ship detonated in silent balls of fire, leaving only drifting debris where Kalar's fleet had once been. In the stunned silence that followed, Emperor Valkorian's face appeared on the Indomitable's main view screen. His expression was a mix of awe and chagrin. "Captain Powell," he said, his voice grave, "it seems we have gravely underestimated you and your people." Powell nodded, his face impassive. "Your Majesty," he replied evenly. Valkorian straightened, visibly swallowing his pride. "On behalf of the Talarian Empire, I extend my deepest apologies for this unfortunate incident. Perhaps it is time we discussed a more mutually beneficial arrangement between our civilizations." As Powell considered his response, alarms blared once more. "Captain," his tactical officer shouted, "we're detecting a massive energy buildup from the wreckage of Kalar's flagship. It looks like—" The officer's words were cut off as a blinding flash lit up the battlefield. The blinding flash subsided, revealing the twisted remnants of Kalar's flagship, drifting silently in the void. Captain Powell exhaled, his shoulders sagging as the adrenaline ebbed from his system. "Status report," he commanded, his voice hoarse from barking orders. "Minimal damage from that final blast, Captain," his tactical officer responded. "Shields held at 12%. We're battered, but still in the fight." Powell nodded, allowing himself a small smile. "Well done, everyone. Secure from general quarters and begin damage control procedures." As the crew bustled about their tasks, Emperor Valkorian's face reappeared on the main view screen. "Captain Powell, I must insist you and your officers join us for a victory celebration. We have much to discuss regarding our future alliance." Hours later, Powell found himself in the opulent halls of the Talarian Palace, surrounded by the glittering elite of their society. He sipped cautiously at a fizzing blue liquid, his eyes constantly scanning the room. Commander Hawkins appeared at his side, leaning in close. "Captain, a word in private?" They slipped away from the revelry, finding a quiet alcove. Hawkins' face was grim as he activated a small holo projector. "Sir, I've intercepted some troubling communications. It seems not everyone is ready to embrace peace." Powell's eyes narrowed as he studied the flickering holographic text. Coded messages between Talarian military factions, filled with venom towards humanity and plans for retaliation. His gut clenched as he realized the true scope of the threat. "They're planning to hit Earth," he breathed, "while we're occupied here with diplomacy." A rustle of fabric alerted them to Princess Zara's approach. Her eyes widened as she took in the holodisplay. "By the celestial spheres," she whispered. "I had hoped. But some wounds run too deep, it seems." Powell's mind raced, weighing their options. "We need to act fast. Princess, can you get us an audience with your father?" Emperor Valkorian's face darkened as they presented their evidence. "These extremists do not speak for the Empire," he insisted, but Powell could see the doubt in his eyes. "With all due respect, Your Majesty," Powell pressed, "we can't afford to wait. Every moment we delay puts Earth at risk." Valkorian's shoulders slumped. "You have my blessing to neutralize this threat, Captain, but know that this action may shatter our fragile peace before it truly begins." Within hours, the Indomitable was streaking through space, her systems pushed to the limit. They dropped out of FTL at the edge of a distant system, cloaking devices engaged. "Multiple hostile signatures detected," the tactical officer reported. "Scans show they're arming long-range planet killers." Powell's face hardened. "We end this now. All batteries, fire at will." The battle was swift and brutal. The Indomitable's advanced weaponry tore through the unsuspecting rogue fleet. But as the last enemy cruiser erupted in flames, a stray plasma bolt slipped through their weakened shields. The bridge exploded in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Powell was thrown from his chair, his ears ringing. Through the haze of smoke, he saw Commander Hawkins sprawled motionless on the deck, a jagged piece of shrapnel protruding from his chest. "Medic!" Powell roared, scrambling to his friend's side. Hawkins' eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Did we get him, sir?" he rasped. Powell clasped his hand. "We got them, John. Earth is safe. Just hold on." As the medical team rushed Hawkins to sickbay, Powell surveyed the carnage of his bridge. The victory felt hollow, tainted by the blood of his crew and the knowledge that true peace remained frustratingly out of reach.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.